All right, now we're recording. Great. So, today, this talk is on beyond Grandsire doubles and Plain Bob doubles. And it's also beyond Plain Bob minor. I think Plain Bob minor, Chris explained last week, and the videos on YouTube are pretty similar to Plain Bob doubles. So I didn't really think I needed to talk about that. There are big caveats at the start. So we're going to first talk about what my progression was, what my journey in barring was beyond Plain Bob doubles and Grandsire doubles. But it's all very subjective. So what you can ring and what you will ring is very dependent on how many bells you have at your tower, what other people are ringing at your tower. What people can ring in your community. So it might not be your tower, but you might ring it more than one tower. And I think it's important to ring it more than one tower to get more experience. But obviously New South Wales is quite a big state, and it might not always be feasible to ring at other towers. So, and you might have other life commitments. But I'm sure if you did turn up at any other tower in New South Wales, you wouldn't be turned down. So, I mean, this worked for me, but initially what we're talking about might not work for you. It might be different from your experience. But I think it's generally a pretty standard path from what I've read online and other people have talked about. But maybe a few steps out first. But if you think you're on a different path, I'm not saying your teacher's wrong. It's just a different experience. So this talk might also be good for tower leaders in need of ideas of what to ring. So first for me, I started learning to ring at my home tower in Wylam, where I grew up in the UK. And then I went to university. So by the time I went to university, I'd been ringing for a year. I could ring Plain Bob and Grandsire doubles, but not to the extent that Tom's just talked about, of actually knowing what dodges were and when to do it, when the treble's leading and things like that. I was pretty much painting by numbers. So I'd learned a series of bells to follow, like 5, 3, 1, 2, lead, 5, 3, 1, 2, lead. And then that wasn't working really. The bell was roughly in the right place, but my striking was terrible, and someone put a bob in, I had no idea. So we'd sometimes ring reverse Canterbury, which I'll show you the line for, because reverse Canterbury is quite an interesting method. If we just make that bigger, hope you can all can see that. So similar to Bob doubles, you make seconds over the lead end and long fifths over the lead end. However, when you expect to make a dodge, you actually make thirds and then make fourths. So you can see the bell ring in fourth starts making fourths, whereas in Plain Bob doubles, you expect the 4 to start treble hunting in, but it can't because the bell who starts in thirds is making thirds. So they block it. And so essentially at the start, the 3 and the 4 are swapped around because of these places rather than dodges. So while where I was learning to ring, we would ring this instead of ringing Plain Bob doubles as a simple modification to Plain Bob doubles, just to give a bit more excitement. And sure, it was exciting. I'm pretty sure 9 times out of 10 when we tried this, it would all fire out when we got to the first lead end. Because I don't think I was the only one learning by numbers. Okay, that's the first method. That's a bit new. So yeah, after about 1 year of ringing, I went to university in Bristol in the southwest of England, and I was very fortunate because there were people who were far greater ringers than I would ever be, and well, essentially. I really learned how to ring. We learned how to ring methods, and was then able to do bobs and singles and whatever. So after my first year in Bristol, 2 years after I learned to ring, I ran my first quarter peel of plain bob doubles. And I'm pretty sure at some point along the way, I was learning Stedman doubles. But yeah, I'm not going to talk about that today. Stedman doubles is a good thing to learn, but I'm not going to talk about it at the moment. Okay, so that's basically my journey of learning to ring plain bob doubles and Grandsire doubles. So what comes next? Well, for me, the next method was St. Clement's College Bob Minor, often just referred to as St. Clement's. Let's open that up. So let's look at the line. So you can see here, the line looks a little bit different to what we normally expect if we're used to ringing plain bob doubles or Grandsire. There's a bit more wiggles in it. So at first glance, you'll notice on the front we have these 3 dodges. So that's one thing. If we look a bit deeper though, you can see that what happens at the lead end is exactly the same. So someone makes seconds, there's a 3-4 up dodge, a 3-4 down dodge, and a 5-6 up and down dodge. Okay. Now in plain bob minor, you make seconds. Your circle of work is make seconds, 3-4 down, 5-6 down, 5-6 up, 3-4 up, make seconds. Well, in St. Clement's, that order of work is reversed. So if you notice here, we're making seconds, then it's 3-4 up, not 3-4 down. And the next work at the lead end is 5-6 up, and then after that, 5-6 down, 3-4 down, and then make seconds. So the circle of work at the lead end is reversed in College Bob Minor, in St. Clement's College Bob Minor. And yeah, what happens in between is that the bells at the back plain hunt, as you might expect, but they're only plain hunting to thirds from the back. So if you look at the 3, it goes out the back, comes down, makes thirds, comes out the back again, plain hunting still, does a dodge at the lead end, and then carries on plain hunting, does another dodge at the lead end, 6-face bell, carries on plain hunting, another dodge at the lead end. So the method is quite simple and quite similar to plain bob minor in that respect, but just the line looks a little bit different, mainly because of these 3 dodges that happen on the front. And it's because of those 3 dodges that you have to plain hunt to thirds from the back. All right, so that's a summary of St. Clement's. So after, I think maybe the first or second time I rang St. Clement's, I was ringing it from the second because that's one of the bells that has some nice symmetry. And we went round one plain course, and at the end someone said single, and I had no idea what to do. Thankfully, someone was behind me and said just carry on, do it again, because the single is unaffected. So it's if you're yeah, and it was quite a good test, I think, to if I'd actually learned the method, because then I was able to ring even though 3 and 4 in this case were swapped over. Okay, so following on from St. Clement's, I then went on to ring Treble Bob, and so just ringing Treble Bob from the treble, Treble Bob hunting, that looks something like this. So if we just look at the blue line, here all the bells are doing the same thing. And if we just look at the blue line from the 1 here. So first you dodge, like Tom was saying, the dodge is just a deviation. So you'd expect if you were plain hunting that the blue line would carry on and become this green line. And then, but in fact, what it does is it dodges back in, so it deviates back one place, back in the first place, and then plain hunts out as expected until it gets to 4th place, where it does a 3-4 up dodge, and then keeps going to 6th place, does the 5-6 up dodge, And then you repeat that backwards going down. So line 6, dodge 5, 6 down, dodge 3, 4 down, dodge 1, 2 down, and then lead and dodge. So treble bob hunting is really good. First of all, it's a step into other methods. So quite a lot of methods don't have the treble plain hunting like they do in plain bob or in Grandsire, but the treble makes this path. So they're generally called surprise or delight methods or treble bob hunt methods. We'll see a few examples of them later on. But mastering this, I found a little bit difficult. But after time, it got better. And I think it's really useful because it gives you a sense of rhythm. Plain hunt gives you rhythm going one direction, then going backwards. But treble bob hunting, because of these dodges, you have to really know, like last week we talked about blue lines, and if you're going bottom right diagonally, then that means you're going slower. And if you're going bottom left diagonally, that means you're going faster. You really have to know what that slow and fast pace is to keep your bell in the right position. And once you get the hang of that, what slow means and what fast means, really it opens up the possibilities of ringing so many other methods. So you'll have a sense of the rhythm from other methods you're ringing, but for me, ringing treble bob hunt, where it's so simple and so repetitive, it really cemented that rhythm for me. Yeah, and like I say, when I was in Bristol, I was very fortunate. So I was ringing some very experienced ringers and a lot of very patient ringers. So if I went wrong, it didn't matter so much. They could shout me back onto the line, and these ringers also like to ring quarter peals. So there's quite often they could meet 5 for a quarter peal, and they wanted to ring surprise, but they were 1 short, and that ended up being me quite a lot. And so I got to practice this a lot, and so that was very useful for me. But I think in your towers, not everyone can beat the treble, but everyone can practice treble bob hunting together. It's false. You get repeated changes, but for a practice night or even for a Sunday morning, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so moving on from treble bob, I mentioned it was a stepping stone into lots of other methods. So the next one I want to talk about is Kent treble bob minor. Yeah, so Kent treble bob minor, it's very similar to treble bob hunting, but instead of making a dodge in 3/4, someone makes places every now and again. Not all the time, but every now and again. So let's see that. Okay, so okay, this is Kent treble bob. First, we'll talk about the second, because the second is a bit of an exception to the rule. So this is the first example of a method today that there's what we might call long work, in which one of the bells makes stays in one position for a long period of time. So you can see the 2 does a dodge here with the 1, but then it stays on the front. It leads and makes seconds, it leads and makes seconds, lead, second, lead, seconds, lead, and double dodges. Now it's really nice to ring this from the second, because again, you're learning that sense of rhythm, ringing the same speed, ringing a bit slower, same speed, faster, same speed, slower, same speed, faster, developing that rhythm. But you ring over a different bell each time. So that's nice to kind of pick out. First time you do it with the 5, second time you do it with 3, second time you do it with the 2, and then the last time you have to do it with the 4 because you've already done it with the other bells. So you can, but when you notice things like that, you can start to knock them off in your head. So I said Kent was very similar to plain bob hunting. So let's look at the 5. So the 5 starts with a dodge 5, 6 up, and then this is the halfway point in what the treble is doing. If you see, it's 5, 6 up, place, and then dodge, dodge, place, dodge, 5, 6 down, dodge. It then does 3, 4 down dodge, like the treble would be expected to do. But then it gets the lead and it doesn't do any dodging on the front. If you look at what the second's doing, you can see that there's no room for the ring of the 5 to make a dodge with the person who's on the front there, which is the second place block. So it leads and then shoots back out again and does a 4, 5 up dodge. Okay, and then it does a 5, 6 up dodge. So for the 5th place bell and for the 6th place bell, the method's very similar to treble bob hunting, except there's no dodging in 1 and 2 in first place and second place. You just lead and then shoot off back again and dodge in 3, 4, up and down. But that's a little bit different for the 3 and the 4. So the rule for Kent treble bob minor and other methods like on major and higher is if the treble's below you when you're in 3 and 4, you make 4ths and 3rds or 3rds and 4ths depending on which way you're going. So instead of doing a 3, 4 down dodge here, the 4th makes 4ths and then makes 3rds, and then it goes down to the lead. And then here, I said if the treble is below you, you make places, but the treble's above the 4, to the left up in this case. Above meaning higher up in the chain, so that it's in 5, 6 here, and you're in 3, 4. So you have to dodge. I mean, learning it by this isn't good for a learner, but that's the general principle. It'd be good just to learn the order of the work, I think. But you can see that this is the only deviation, well, apart from what happens on the front, this is the only deviation from the treble bob. Okay, that's Kent treble bob. I'm running through quite quickly. Are there any questions as we go along? Happy to take questions. No? Okay. So after Kent treble bob, then I started ringing surprise minor methods. So there's a lot of interesting methods between St. Clement's and Cambridge that I completely missed out. We'll talk a little bit about them in a bit, but I completely missed them out, and I went straight to Cambridge after Kent. So Cambridge is most people's introduction to surprise methods. So in a surprise method, the treble makes the treble bob hunting. So it's treble bob hunting. But you can see that the line is a bit more complicated, and like this pop-up is showing when you're learning it, basically just have to learn what you do when. So the 6th place bell, you lead, dodge 1, 2 up, dodge 3, 4 up, 4ths, 3rds, dodge 3, 4 up, 4ths, 3rds, dodge. And then you learn it like that, and then try and put that into practice. And I think last week we talked about learning blue lines. I was talking about breaking it down. So you can break this long section here into, and call that Cambridge places. And you can do the same for this bit at the front. But refer to the previous video for more information about that. So,
Richard, sorry, can we just go back to that blue line method?
Yeah.
See at the top of each of the columns, you've got those numbers 6 in a circle, 3 in a circle, 4 in a circle. Yeah. Could you just explain what they mean?
Yeah. So I talked about this last week. So these bells, these numbers indicate where each bell starts. So each of these columns is one lead of the method. So the sixth bell, the tenor starts here, and it plain hunts down. But the 3, for example, comes out the back and does these double dodges. So the 3 starts in third place and dodges out. If you notice in this column, the 3 starts here and comes out. And then if you draw the line there, you can see that. So the numbers just indicate the starting position of each bell. Because when you're ringing a method, it all slots together. You just start in a different position on one continuous line. Does that make sense, Anne?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Starting, yep.
So maybe if I just quickly show reverse canterbury, which is a bit more like Bob doubles. You can see the 5 starts here and makes a place, and then goes down the lead. If it was plain Bob doubles, make a dodge there. The second starts by leading, going out the back, doing a 3-4 down dodge, or 3-4 down places in this.
But in that third column, the number 2 bell is
So
is written as the last bell on that first line.
Yeah, so this is the whole method written out, and the line goes through the 5.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Right. Got it.
Makes sense? Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, so like I was saying, I got to ring in Cambridge Minor, and I think that's probably the level I want to finish at discussing today, because I think once you've got to Cambridge Minor, really you've learned all the skills to learn any method, really. There are some more that are a bit more complicated and might take a little more time to learn, but I don't think you're learning anything new beyond that. Like, you're just applying the same skills to new methods. And then again, well, for me at least, major was a bit more difficult to master, but essentially it's the same, just with extra paces. But I think those 2 extra bells do make things just a bit more complicated. At least that was my experience. Okay, so that's my experience. But what I wanted to also talk to you today about is I'm certainly no authority on any of this, but there are some people in the UK you've probably heard of ART, which is the Association of Ringing Teachers. So they have a very comprehensive website with a whole heap of resources, and I just want to show you something that they have. So I hope, yes. So this is this is the ART website, and you can see that they obviously value progression, because our talk today is basically right here on the home page, this minor stepping stone. If we click on that, we'll get taken to this Moodle course. So there's a whole heap of courses here. Some of them are free. In fact, I think all of them are free, but I think these refreshers, you have to have actually done the course. There's some maintenance, how to splice ropes. But today we'll be interested in this minor stepping stones course. So I've already signed up and enrolled. So if I just log in, enrolling is literally saying, yeah, I want to enroll, and they let you in, and you get access to all this. So what Art's suggesting, this is what one progression that you might want to take. So they've grouped methods into levels. And you can see there's some similarity between these methods. So if you take my example of my path, I started off with playing Bob and then skipped out all of these, and then went to this advanced minor and then rang this one, missing out all the others, and then went to level 3 and rang this one, missed out all the rest, and then went to 4. So I'm not saying anything against that, but I think variety is the spice of life, and there's some very interesting methods that are also very simple. So, for example, you might only be able to ring these with the ringers at your tower, and that's perfectly fine. I'm not integrating that. You can see if we click on one of the methods, tells us a bit about the method, a little bit about the structure, tells you why it's good to learn and what it's useful for. And then we can click on the blue line so we can all learn it. And if we go there, hopefully get a line. Maybe we'll try. Okay. Maybe we'll try a different one. Okay, let's look at Little Bob. So, yeah, you can see a lot of information here. Tells you about the method and how to ring it, and then we get the line. Yeah, Little Bob Minor is a great method to learn. You can see that there's similarities to what we were discussing before about Treble Bob. So you can see here, if we follow from the 2, we lead playing him out at the back, missing out 3-4 in this case. But then we ring 5-6 down, sorry, 5-6 up, 5-6 down, 3-4 down, and then lead. And you can see that this is actually quite similar in this region of the method to Ken Treble Bob that we were discussing before. So, yeah. Okay, so that's that. And there's a lot of other methods. We don't have to look over them, but some more complicated than others. But well, I think as many methods you can learn what the ringers at your tower can learn, the better. Because with each method that you do learn, you'll notice similarities with previous methods that you've already learned. And what that'll do is just cement the whole thing together. I think if you keep ringing the same method over and over and over again, then you don't understand what's really happening. Whereas if you learn lots of methods that are quite similar, but with small differences, then you'll start to see patterns emerging from one method to the next, and that'll help when you try to learn new methods. Okay, so we'll skip this bit. Yeah, I've said no. If you're keen and other ringers you're around, you might have to encourage them to learn new methods too. Oh, I've just noticed my camera's not on. How do I turn that back on? Okay. So,
just something I'd add there, Richard.
Yeah.
Some of the first few methods that you learn, it's going to help you develop your understanding of what a blue line is. So, yeah, the more you learn, the easier it becomes. And so, a lot of this will make a lot more sense a little bit down the track to some people. And so the first few methods you learn, plain hunt or the Bob doubles or Grandsire doubles, those are sort of the tools in my mind to help you understand what a blue line is. So if for some people this doesn't make a great deal of sense, those first few methods and trying to practice them and ring them will help you develop an understanding of what that blue line is. And then once you get to, say, the Cambridge minor level, as you suggested, then you've got a sufficient understanding of all the, all the other things about a blue line. And then from that point onwards, yes, your world's, no, you can do anything. The world's your oyster. So, but yes, I would go so far as to say, even up to Cambridge minor, each new step you take, you might be learning new things about the blue line or the interpretation of that on the end of a rope. So yes, so some of these things might be, yeah. So yeah, some of these things will become obvious down the track, and don't be too worried if they're not obvious now.
Oh, completely, yeah.
Richard,
Yep.
or Tom, but the biggest problem I have is in going, say, from doubles to minor, getting the rhythm right. Each time, let's say when I had a go at Treble Bob, it's either too fast or too slow. So I never know what's the best way to get my rhythm right.
Well, I was actually going to mention about treble bob hunting because I think it's really undersold as a very useful skill to have. One of the problems, I say problems, but not the right word, but one of the issues when you first learn to plain hunt on 5 is it happens very quickly. You've only got a couple of hand strokes, a couple of back strokes, and all got to change speed on both immediately. You don't get a chance to set into a sense of rhythm. Whereas treble bob hunting, you actually do have a chance to set in, a sense of rhythm. You've got 3 blows in one direction and 1 back. Now that might sound slightly counterintuitive for what I just said about setting into a sense of rhythm, but it's your back strokes which change between slow and quick, slow and quick. Whereas your hand strokes are always slow, 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 slow as you're heading towards the back, and then quick, 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 quick as you head to the front. The other thing is you get twice as many goes of it because every second backstroke sends you back a step. So you get from first place to second place, you go slow, and then you get sent back. So you have another go slow, then you go slow up into 4th place. Backstroke sets you back, go slow into 4th, go slower into 6th. So you have 2 bites of the cherry only on 6 bells. So you have a much better chance of getting into a sense of rhythm. The key thing is to have a solid band around you, which is, slightly chicken and an egg scenario, isn't it? So I suppose it really comes down to, there's a few things. I mean, going from plain hunting on 5 to plain hunting on 6, in theory should be simple, but a lot of people get thrown by not having the safety barrier of that tenor bell ringing last. And that's where the whole band has got to work out what is their sense of rhythm, what speed are we ringing these bells at. Don't ring too fast so that the back bells can't keep up the speed, and don't ring too slowly so the trebles have to have a cup of tea between every single stroke. So once you get into a rhythm of just plain hunting on 6, then try treble hunting on 6. And the key thing really is to get the leading right. Everyone, not just yourself, but the whole band. Make sure the hand stroke gap is there. Make sure that the backstroke just rolls on nicely from the change before, and hopefully you'll have an even 6-bell rhythm in between. Wishful thinking, I know, but I think it's a very, very useful thing to practice as a band. And it's actually the point I wanted to make, which is why I actually came on camera.
Cheers, Peter. So one thing I was going to say a bit later was if you need something more personalized for you or for your tower, obviously what I've talked about is my experience and what's out there online, but we do have regional education officers, and if you don't know who those are, please contact me and I can forward you in the right direction, or even ask a member of the branch committee, or I mean, most people know Tom and Peter, and there's a lot of very experienced teachers around who will be able to help. So just ask, and we can put together some kind of personalized plan for you and your tower, because there's always more than one way to skin a cat. I think that's awesome. I was going to mention I have Steve Coleman's Method Ringer's Companion here. It's a very good book. It's very comprehensive. And And I think every tower that's been installed in the past 5 or 6 years at least, I'm not sure how far back it goes beyond that, but
We're running a bit behind there, Richard. We've got a few towers which need their books out.
well, they're currently in this room actually.
Let's get them.
I just can't get out to Western Sydney at the moment. It's but we will do soon, hopefully. But yeah, so Steve Coleman has quite a good progression, I think. Yeah. So I was going to talk about doubles, but I've just noticed the time. So yeah, I think I'll end it there. Are there any more questions? No? Stop sharing.
Well, something I would say is please go to other towers where you can.
Yeah.
It's a really good way of perhaps getting a different view on how to learn a particular method or a different style of teaching. Obviously, it doesn't mean anything at the moment, but when we can get back to ringing, traveling around to different towers does help, and it gives you a different view on how to ring certain things. That's something I'd push.
Yep, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Awesome. Well, thanks for coming, everyone. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I guess next week we have James Perrins talking about improving striking, and an unknown speaker talking about improving handling. So I think next week will be a good one if we can get another speaker. So yeah, hopefully see you all next week. And,
Excellent. Thanks, Richard.
stay safe.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Tom. Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
Tom.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you. Very good.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Bye.
Thank you, Karen, by the way, for the email.